Hello, everyone. Welcome. Whoop, there's a lot of, click, click, click. Here we go. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and welcome once again to the extraordinary, the amazing, the profound, illuminous SkyWire. Each and every week, if you've missed us or if you've been here before, you know that each week we come together a clean slate, so to speak. Sometimes we have a title, a description, a thing. Other times we just come together and we're an open book. We're ready to listen to what the messages are, to what the universe has in store for what we're supposed to get. So we're really excited to be here today. And each week I listen for what maybe we should talk about. And sometimes it comes strong. Sometimes I don't get a message until the day before the show. So I kind of wait, listen, and see what presents itself. And this week, duality presented itself. And it was interesting once I started to look and dig a little, because I don't want to dig too much. I want to come here and be in awe and learn and not come with a particular agenda. I like to just listen to what comes, and I like to use this platform as my definition. But when I looked it up a little bit, it made perfect sense about duality and how listening is so connected to duality. And once I came upon it yesterday, it seemed to present itself throughout my day, and it was like, wow, that makes sense. Oh, that's duality. Oh, yeah, that's what that means. So I kind of sort of started living it. So duality, in essence, well, is like having a coin, and you have both sides to the coin, but it's still a coin. Same with the weather. They're just degrees of weather. It can seem like an opposite, but in essence, just the same, just degrees. So we're going to talk about duality and how it appears in our life and what listening does for us, how listening supports us in this notion of unity and duality. So I want to welcome our fantastic panel today. We have several people who are traveling around the world and doing some really extraordinary things. So here today we have Margarita.
Hi, welcome.
Whoa, hi. Yeah, it was loud. Maybe I'm a little loud. I need to turn down my sound a little bit. But anyway, so good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Yes, it's always enjoyable.
Thank you. And you always show up.
I do.
Thank you. And Gail. Hey, Gail.
Hi. Hey, great to be here. When you mentioned that you had no agenda, it reminded me of the amazing conversation we had last week. That was some conversation.
Yeah. What's
remember we were about the agenda list and not having an agenda. It was just a very profound conversation. So I'm looking forward to this one too.
Good. And Gail also always shows up. And if she doesn't, she lets me know. So I appreciate that. And she has some exciting news too. So I think today is going to be a really interesting kind of homey day where we're going to talk about duality and we're going to talk about personal experiences, because that's always important. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's actually not for public news yet. So.
Okay, good. Thank you for telling me.
A couple of weeks from now.
Okay, so you'll have to tune back because she's got some good news. So you'll have to tune back. But anyway, it's always great to come together and share our personal stories so that we live this work. We live this listening work. And Elaine, as you see her picture, she'll be in as soon as she can as well. So Margarita, why don't you kind of start us off or take us in, further into this idea of duality?
In the beginning, it was nothing. And then, bam, the Big Bang happened. So duality, from my point of view, is like, first of all, I'm going to have my little drawing here. First of all, there is a little dot. There's a little dot there of awareness. It actually has no size. It has nothing, right? But then, boom. Then the dark and the light is separated. And then how we see it in our life is this tangle board here, where, okay, it's positive and go up, and then negative go down, right? So there is like a balance board between the two, good and bad, dark and light, woman and female, and men and masculine, you know, anything kind of like that. And so in listening, we may need to listen to both sides to have an objective. And coming, so in meditation practice, you start out being like this, right? And then you come closer and closer to the center, and then there's a little bit less variation, and then a little bit less, and then until you can see, okay, I can stay here in the middle and not be extremely angry or be extremely overwhelmed, pleasurable, whatever, too much of it happen, but stay in a balanced place. And I think listening to yourself from that balanced place makes you more objective, and then you can help the world.
So wow, it's Dave. Cool.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
What have I missed?
Well, we're talking about duality, right?
This is SkyWire. You've been going for 5 minutes. I've missed tons of stuff.
I know. That's probably true. Even so, it's interesting because even when you listen, you're missing something too, aren't you? So Margarita was talking. She showed us a dot, and then she showed like the yin and the yang, right? The dark and the light, and then the idea of balance. So within that dot, you have two sides. Is what you're showing us? Is that right? The light and the dark.
It's before it comes out to duality.
Okay.
The dot here is existing before anything else in the universe. The universe is not created, right?
Right.
This is just a mental concept now, right?
Right.
But that dot goes out to this symbol, which is the dark and the light symbol, right? There's always a little bit light in the dark, and there's always a little dark in the light.
So that's a real, and the listening helps us shift, helps us know when we're where we are, where we want to go, what's going on. It puts us into a perspective of what's happening.
Right.
Right. So dark and light, good or bad, they're all the same coin, just degrees of light or degrees of dark or degrees of good or degrees of not, maybe it's still good, but maybe it's not as good, right?
But you can actually have a coin balance on this one, and if you can manage to balance the coin on the side, then you are on that balance point where you don't sway this way or this way.
You just
I mean, this is a rock that I got from Iceland, but does that illustrate that well?
I think so. That's good. Okay, cool. All right, so now, Gail, take it away.
Actually, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if I'm the only one, but when Margarita was speaking, I wasn't seeing her on the screen, so I couldn't see her beautiful picture. I don't know if it's just me, but I just wanted to mention that in case something needs to be done about that.
Okay.
So take it away, Gail. My gosh, there's so many things I could say, but can I just pass for now until I get my thoughts a little more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So, who wants to go next, Elaine or Dave? Duality. Go ahead, Elaine.
I was gonna say, go on over to Dave, because I'm kind of like Gail this morning, but I guess I'll say a little something. The topic is duality. Okay, so when we come into this frame of reference, like life on planet Earth, and it looks like I'm a human being in a body, then yeah, our frame of reference tends to be, because I mostly think of myself as a body and I mostly think I'm kind of mortal, and I have to protect my sense of existence in this way. It's because the sense of identification is mostly that way that we then experience, I would say, these contrasts. Defend and protect, love and fear, light and dark. But from a larger spiritual and consciousness perspective, it's like all this stuff, good and bad, yin and yang, it's just all divine stuff. It's all divine stuff. And as you wake up a little bit more and more, you realize you can look at any of the whole of creation kind of from any point. And I guess if you do trippy kinds of stuff or are really highly evolved, you can actually do that. But anyway, I'll just start out with that, and maybe that's a good lead into Dave talking about Alan Watts or making some reference to him, perchance. Anyway, hi Dave.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Elaine, that was great. That was great. The idea of contrasts and the stuff that you brought in. So it was short but sweet. Okay, that was great. Dave.
Yo.
Well, I hear that you are the pro when it comes to duality.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if that's a compliment or not.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
I mean, Elaine has got this great retentive memory, and I mentioned ages ago about Alan Watts, and it sort of like lodged in her mind as she mentioned it the other day. Yeah, I collected a lot of stuff of everything I could find of Alan Watts, and I downloaded a lot of his, nearly all of his seminars and his teachings that you hear on Google and onto a memory stick, so I've got them all. And the books and everything. I don't always agree with him, and I think that's the mark of a good or real true teacher, because if you just accepted everything they said, there'd probably be some form of guru, which is not the best position to be in, because a lot of the time gurus are accepted as being the knowing, all-seeing, omnipotent type of person who has the answer to everything, and it's not correct. Nobody has got the answer to everything. But a lot of the stuff that I read and listen to with Alan Watts, I find it triggers a lot of other thought processes off. And I remember reading about his version of duality, saying that one side, there is not one side of a coin, there's two sides of a coin, but they belong to the coin. So there is only really one coin of two sides. And that got me thinking, and I realized that we never call anything in life or in the world one-sided. Really, we call it either the surface, but there's always two sides to something, or more. We've got a box, six-sided. You never have one side of something. And even with arguments that we read about or see, we always say, there's always two sides to an argument. We never hear both sides, from which we can create our own version of the event. Teachers, educators, gurus, you can probably link them in one box, I think, which would be a six-sided one, not a one-sided one. But the term guru, I think, is misrepresented. I think it has a connotation of knowing everything. A teacher is a great one, better than an educator. A teacher is somebody who takes something takes something complicated and makes it simple. Whereas an educator is someone who takes something simple and make it complicated. And a teacher is the sort of person who will give you an answer, and an educator will ask you to work it out for yourself. Now, I'm always been a mind of working things out for yourself, because sometimes you come up with a better answer than you would have done if you just accepted the one that you were given. But the two-sided thing, or more than two sides, I think is absolutely right. There is duality, more than one side of everything. If they're polar opposites sometimes. You can't believe in really good unless you believe in evil. You know good exists, but evil does too. There's north and south, there's up and down, there's left and right. There is a duality in everything, but it is always the central core of something that holds it all together.
Dave, I want to ask you a question. So what was it about Alan Watts and this conversation of duality that got your attention?
Well, I think it's unusual to find Alan Watts referenced sometimes, because a lot of people copy Alan Watts. And so going to source, the source of Alan Watts, is a thing that triggered fixed a switch in my mind. The other side of it is that we very rarely talk about duality. And I've never seen the subject of duality come up. And
Wrong.
yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen. I mean, mind
What
you, I
did you
don't.
think? Okay, so what did you think yesterday when I posted this?
Well, I just thought it was refreshing to see a subject like duality, but also linked with Alan Watts. I mean, I was going to come here anyway, come hell or high water, but seeing something like that when I don't normally see it, because I don't search the Google Hangouts, I just look at people that I like and listen to before, and I will go to it. But I'm not the sort of person. I don't look at the list of what's coming up. I don't do that. And so when this one happened, you can tear me down in pieces and say, yeah, well, duality is talked about a lot. I personally, in my reticular activating system, doesn't pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because it was very freeing for me when this came up, and I didn't know that much about it, other than I will say, there's duality, right? There's two sides, and then I would say the truth. So the two sides to every story, and the truth. Is the truth the coin?
Oh.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I'll talk about that. When Margarita started mentioning the coin, I thought, but it's not the coin that's static, just like standing there poised in midair. It's like the coin is spinning, and you could be at any point. If you were on the rim of the coin, if that's the place of your consciousness, it would be spinning, and then it would be looking at like all of everything it thought was itself and everything that could be beyond itself. But then the next thought I have, because Dave said he doesn't hear people talking much about duality, two of the arenas that have been in-depth areas of my life practice, which has been A Course in Miracles and the practice of Reiki, which in truth is really a spiritual practice, and if taught by someone who's really linked to the depth of the origins of the practice, and my teacher in particular, a guy named Franz Steiner, we're exploring duality all the time, and my own feeling is that we're at this time in this human point of consciousness where the truth, the love of what makes up the stuff of each one of us is like pushing up against the limiting, separating belief systems that we have, kind of like us and them, or me and other, because that's a dualistic concept, are being dissolved, so that gradually we have more experiences of unity, oneness. In the most practical terms, if you think of doing an activity where you get completely absorbed so you're not even thinking, like you're gardening, and you're just like you're being the gardening. you're beyond the space where you're thinking, I am digging the soil and I am taking this other plant and putting it in here. You're not even thinking. You're just being the gardening. And so this whole discussion about duality, when we're in the place of duality, we're typically at a conscious place where we think, to somehow be successful, I have to do something, and my point of success is going to be in the future, like when something is completed or when I experience, and that is different from just being in the moment. So let's shift from duality to be all it, reality. And the T is truth, the whole of everything. I don't know.
And listening is our gift. Listening is our way, is the way to understand this, to see the duality, to make peace, right? Gail.
Yeah, I wanted to say that the reason why that I decided not to speak before is because sometimes there just really aren't words, like what you were just saying, Elaine. And this conversation to me is so profound that I really was like, I didn't want to talk. I just really wanted to be this conversation, because when you think about it, like Marilyn, you mentioned the word freedom. I mean, could you imagine if everybody in the world walked around with the consciousness of what the things, the ideas that we're talking about here, that there isn't black and white, there's a continuum. I mean, just think what the world would be like. People wouldn't hate each other anymore because they would realize that that person is just like me. Not only that, they're an extension of me. And it's just, we're using these words, right? And we're having this this is an unbelievable conversation. But it's like, if we just, stopped talking for a minute, stop the words just for 30 seconds and just actually take in what we were actually saying here, it's just, I just don't have words. I mean, it's just so beautiful, so profound. It's it changes everything. It changes reality. It's just, do you know what I'm saying? It's just so incredibly profound and beautiful.
So why don't we take those 30 seconds?
Sure.
So my first thought was, wow, 30 seconds is nothing. But while I was in it, boy, did it seem long. On some level, in this moment. And you talk, Gail, everything you've said and everything everybody has said and Margarita has pictured it has been profound. And I'm sitting here and I'm questioning, which is so important to question for me at this moment, like black and white. Like, what makes black and white good or not good? I don't, when I start to question, I'm like, I have no answers, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Then you stop talking because there is really nothing to say.
That's what I meant. It's like I just had to not talk.
Should we end the show now?
Well, there were so many things I wanted to say that in a way, but one of the things, Margarita, that you said a lot of stuff, but I'm hanging on to one thing when you talked about that when you can be in the center, and it doesn't have to be so intense on the left, and it doesn't have to be so intense on the right. These days I'm really looking to see how to make my life less stressful, and I've really been playing with that a lot, meditating on it, whatever, you know, dwelling on listening, you know, like listening around that. And I realized that, you know, half the time I create my own stress, and that's because I'm in the duality. So I'm fucking stressed out, you know what I mean? Part of me. But it's like,
that's the point. Yes.
you know? But
Yeah.
it's like when we can remember, like I just felt that freedom from, I just connected with what you said, Margarita, because I can get so intense about things, you know? And when we can find that balance and not have to be so, like, pulled in one way or the other and have that equanimity, there's such freedom to that. And I know that there's such growth for me just to really to dwell on that.
The gift of listening, the gift of duality is not making things wrong.
Oh, yeah.
That's the gift. Hello. Dave, can you read what you just posted? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. It's a definition of duality by Alan Watts that I've always had on my computer. It says, you are the function of what the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is the function of what the whole ocean is doing. It just means that you are part of a grand plan, and everything that you do is an individual piece of something as a whole that's moving. It's a great quote, because I think it shows you how insignificant you are in the great scheme of things, but also how significant you are at the same time. It's the duality of a description of duality. It shows you that you're a very small piece of a grand plan, which you would term as being, well, it doesn't matter what I do, but then it tells you that you are integral to what happens, because a wave can be a small wave or it can be a tsunami. It depends entirely upon the context that you read that in, and the duality of things we teach in the program, the HPT program, that you don't need to see and you don't need to feel inside something that is real. It can still be real without you aware of it, knowing it, seeing it. And so when you see somebody, you get a perception of them, but that's not the reality. And you know, we make a choice or a judgment about people. And that is one side of a duality. When we get the real story, we get the background of why that person is behaving in that way, not only do we understand, but we see the other side of that person. The duality is there again. It's like the invisible and the visible. The invisible in this world, in my opinion, is far more powerful than the visible. What we cannot see, what we cannot touch or feel, is far more powerful. If you imagine a tree, and you suppose that this tree represents a tree of life or living, and on the tree are fruit. Now you could dumb this down and say, if you just imagine an apple tree. Now in life, our fruits are called our results or experiences, and we look at the fruits or our results and experiences, and we don't like them. They're not enough, and they're too small. They don't taste good. So most of the time, what do we tend to do? Most people put more attention, more focus on the fruit, the results of the experience. They'll clean the fruit, they'll spray the fruit, they'll nurture the fruit, they'll polish the fruit. But what is it that actually creates that fruit? It's the roots that create the fruit. It's what's underground that creates what's above ground. It's what's invisible that creates the visible. So if you want, even in business, you want better results, you've got to do something about the roots of what your company does, the invisible stuff that the other people will never ever see or know exists because it's not visible. And that's the duality of life. With us, it's what goes on in our heads that is invisible to other people, that creates what comes out of our mouths, what creates our beliefs, what creates our perceptions. And it's how we walk through life by our own experiences. Nobody really knows nobody knows really how our experiences affect us. We don't get stuck in an event in our life. We get stuck in the significance of an event in our life. And that's the thing. No one else in this world is something new. I've had people tell me that they were adopted and it's ruined their lives. They tell me the story and they're crying. I repeat the story back to them. I'm not crying. Why? It has no significance to me, but it has significance to them. Everybody has a significant point, but it's kept hidden and it's invisible. And until we understand that everybody is more than one-sided, they're two-dimensional, three-dimensional, there is something hidden. And unless we accept that at the very start of our connections with people, we'll never get over the line of having a true three-dimensional connection with somebody, because that's where the magic is.
So I want to pull out a piece of what you said and just throw it out here. So, and in keeping with listening, because again, we don't want to, listening is what it takes to even understand anything that anybody is saying. Listening is what it takes to be able to switch from dark to light, from the understanding, the acknowledging, all of it is what listening, this awareness, this connection is all about listening. Because remember, everything gives off information and we're listening for that clarity. Well, the interesting thing is if everybody knew, or if we all knew, that when we felt stressed, really it didn't matter. But when we felt great, that mattered. Because based on some of what Dave's saying, right? We're a small piece of the puzzle, and yet we're a major piece of the puzzle when things are going right.
Can I just, before we get into that, because it is really interesting that you picked up on that. One of the exercises that we do is to get a group of people to stand. There's 300, 400 of them. They stand and they close their eyes. And then I ask them to stand the way they would stand if they were bored, depressed, miserable, fed up. And they all have a way of standing. Their shoulders slump, their head tilts forward. And I tell them, if you tilt your head forward a little bit more, you'll feel more depressed. And their weight ratio of their body. And I take them through an exercise where they become aware of the position of their feet, the weight ratio on their hips, what they're doing with their arms, whether they've folded their arms, their head tilted to one side. And then I get them to show me how they stand if they're uncertain. And I go through all of these different feelings and moods that people have. Every single person in there has got a different way of doing one thing in the whole structure. They may stand on one leg, they put more weight on one leg, they may bend their knees slightly, but they tilt their head, and if they're uncertain, they've got their chin supported by the hand. Then show me how you do annoyed, show me how you do happy. And at the end of it, they all admit that they felt a little bit depressed. They felt a little bit like uncertain. They felt happy when they were punching the air and shouting. It's that invisible stuff that they think they don't know is going on, but they know they have to do it. We know that we have to do it. If we want to be depressed, we know we've got to stand in a particular way to get the benefit of that depressed state. We want to do it right. Okay, so we have this self-constructed way of standing, breathing, thinking. If I said there's somebody outside that door who has just won $25 million on the lottery last night, describe to me how they're standing. I bet you'll be within 90% right of them being really energized, chest puffed out, smiling, head back, shoulders back, because we know that that's the way that we would do it, and that's a generalization. So there are protocols and ways of doing things that we have to accept, and it's the invisible stuff because we don't know we do it.
Well, emotion is stored. Emotions are stored. I mean, if you went to repeat, if something awful happened or something great happened, and you kind of said it to this person, you came to work, you said it to this person, then 5 minutes later you said, you relive it every time you say it. So when you make an attempt and you say, be happy or be sad, it's a memory that we are pulling up, and
But
people can respond to
yeah,
that memory.
I know also, Marilyn, everybody here can walk into a room without saying anything, and somebody in the room will say, "What's wrong?" Because they pick it up. You
Right,
don't
they
have
can
to
read your
say that there's
energy.
something wrong.
Right, right. You can read people's energy.
But your internal dialogue,
Absolutely.
your
Yep.
mind is generating, it's
Right.
broadcasting it. They're picking up your
Right.
Wi-Fi that you've got
Absolutely.
switched on.
Exactly. I can come on here and feel like today I came on, I was distracted, I had things going on, but I can act. I can act my way through how I was feeling because I know what I need to do. And then I can pretend for a few minutes, and then I become what I pretend. So,
Take it till you make it.
and that is a duality too, isn't it? It's on that continuum. But getting back to, if we could and if we listened to, and Margarita, maybe this is a part where you can chime in. When we've listened and we know where we are, and we know that we are sad, we're angry, we feel insecure, we've listened, we understand these feelings, right? That it's not going to make a difference. But when we feel good, that can make a difference. That changes the energy. Okay, so I'm vibrating.
Well, I have to go back to Dave here and show this little painting I did with him. This is the Guru of Transformation, and you see the halo above here. He actually portrays this pose every time we see him. I can see that little halo around there, and he's confident. He's not going to be faced by any kind of stuff that anyone has. He can even walk on the coals. And as he said too, this is what we all are together. We are waves on the ocean. And if you don't like it, get used to it. Because then we can have this organized sea that flows beautiful. Or we can try to stand out. You're hilarious, Dave. Or you can stand out and become a rebellious force and cause disruption.
Okay, but hold on a minute. We have to talk about this. Because this is the duality of being mirrors, the same, identicals, or being unique. There's this conversation that I've heard several times about, like China, or the things that are going on, with the kids having to be exactly the same way in every class. Everybody is the same way, right? And yet, and you get into trouble if you deviate, if you're a deviant.
I think that the thing is, to be happy, we have to actually access our own creativity and access what we are here to learn. And if you're curious, like the word curious maybe could be the next topic, curiosity, because that engages your creativity to find solutions, right? Mm-hmm. If we just stay in the negative state and then don't try to find solutions for it or expect other people to do it, thank God for Dave, we have him to go to. But if you're on your own and then you give up right away, that's a state of inability, right? And so all my life I was being curious. I just wanted to find out, learn new things and do new things and just stay on track and be curious and find out, whether it's like I said on my hangout this morning, whether it's the sales funnel technology or how does that flower come up and be that beautiful. Like anything in life can be explored. And I think this is something that has to do with duality is, okay, so I can make a choice. So I'm curious about this, but that's not going to get me anywhere. Let's say if I'm studying the art of killing people, right? That's not very helpful. I hope everybody here agrees with me.
I like your I like the fact that because in the training we teach people to think like this, which is unique because you are. Unique is a generalized term. It's unique. You are the unique one.
So how does unique fit in to this notion of being part of the flow, being the wave? How does that fit into this notion of unity and duality?
Well, duality is when you know that duality exists, a lot of the time you are unique because a lot of people think that there is no duality in people. Nobody is the same every day. Nobody is the same every minute. There are other factors in your mind, in your conscious mind that come out, and you seem different sometimes. That's why people say, "Well, what's wrong?" The other side of it is that being unique is the best way to be, because being just the same as everybody else, again, that's fine if you want to be the same as everybody else, but being unique means that you do something different. And sometimes doing something different brings other people along.
Right. So we're talking 50 Shades of Grey.
I won't go that far, but
Gail, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'm having it. The things I want to say today are, for some reason, it's very difficult to put into words. So if you just bear with me. Okay, so why be unique? I think that when we can realize our uniqueness, we really can realize how powerful we really are, because we can realize that even though we're, like maybe a small drop in the bucket of whatever, that drop could also be a tidal wave. And I think we're taught in this society that we're just an iteration of everybody else. There's nothing special about us. We can be like substituted for somebody else very easily. And when we remember that we are unique, and I mean it in the spiritual sense, I mean it in the sense of understanding our uniqueness in our relationship with the divine, or with the true power. And again, bear with me here because it's so hard to put this into words. But we are here for a special reason. We all have our own gift to give, and that gift, I think, is discovered through the listening, and it's discovered when we realize the power that we really have when we see that we are connected to like a higher power or a higher force. And I think I'm going to stop here, because maybe we can just think about what I was saying. It's just there's so many things to say about all of this. I don't know if anybody could relate to what I was just saying, but
I think that, and Elaine, I'm going to ask you to speak next, if that's okay. But I think that this concentration of duality really is a container that helps to understand a lot of things and gives guidance and direction for living in peace, and because it has the word dual, so it's like two sides, and yet it's really the one. So it is the opposite of the same thing. So there's so much to talk about, and I agree with you, Gail. We've been going in more tangents on this show than we've ever done before, I've noticed. Normally on our shows, we stick to a certain thing and we go off a little. But here, we're all going off. Now, I hear myself again, so but we're all going.
You know
Yeah,
why that's happening?
What's happening?
Because we're demonstrating the fact that there is more than one side to duality.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Now, because that's very interesting. Because I not my questions, but I'm as the host, so I'm going to ask a question. Right? The answers have been very deviant. Have been deviant, and it's just very different. You just said it exactly. We are answering what we want to answer. We are taking the conversation where we want to take it. We all have a concept of where we are with this now and how it looks now. And we are exactly what Dave just said. We are demonstrating opposite answers to the same, or the same answers
No.
that's opposite. Crazy. I mean, that's really fascinating. You're exactly right. Elaine, take it.
Okay. When we're exploring duality, we're tending to look at things in the or mode. This or this. And when we're looking at things from a more expanded vision, it's the and vision, okay? It's this way, and it's this way, and it's this way. It's just not the coin flipping heads or tails. It's being on that side of the coin and spinning around and, wherever it is, there's another viewpoint. There's another way of expressing something. There's another place in the universe to look. And I want to bring this back to the idea of as humans, our most basic part of duality is thinking self and then other. And how do I experience that relationship? Now, somewhere along the life,
Hold on just a second. Do you hear this vibe going back and forth, this reverberating kind of thing?
a little echo.
Yeah. Everybody hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we know where it's coming from? Okay.
Try it again.
Nope.
Better?
That's perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
I just unplugged my headset and plugged it back in. I don't know.
What was great was that we're talking about duality, and I can hear two of you. That's fantastic.
At different times, probably.
Anyway, what I was getting to was the concept of the golden rule. Like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat others like you would like to be treated. And of course, in biblical terms, we would say, love thy neighbor as thyself. And when we're waking up, we come to see that self isn't a small s, self is a big S. And so when we were in that moment of silence earlier on in the show, I closed my eyes for a little bit, and then I just wanted to look at everybody else in the panel and say, Dave is my capital S self, and in this moment, I get to appreciate all those aspects of being that are here right now. This is the other expanded part of myself, and I get to look at Gail and appreciate all of her perceptions and the way she animates and the things that she might express, and that's my expanded self. And I get to look at Margarita, and she is my capital S self. And I get to look at Marilyn, and she is my capital S self. And when I get quiet and I think about everybody living on the planet right now, they're my capital S self. And I could say, I could think of them as billions of bodies, but I like to connect. The way I can really experience the true connection is getting back to that dualistic, formless place. And whether you want to call it spirit or etheric, or it doesn't really matter. But it's in that silence, that quiet, that formless place where, I'll say it, when the thinking actually stops, that we can feel those connections.
Right.
That's my experience anyway.
That was really brilliant too. And that's when we stop thinking, that's when we really are allowing ourselves to be, which is when you can connect and expand. That was this has really been fascinating, I have to say. I mean,
Can I just make a quick comment there?
Go. Yeah, we'll make a long one. It's all the same.
Make a long one. Okay, so both Elaine and Dave talked about this, right? So I want to do this picture here, that we are God's beaker, and all of our life force here, we are together here, and then it's dripped out, some drops going wider, some drops going smaller, and all of those interactions creates the reality we're in, right? But we come from the same place, right there. So I think that if we think about that, then we can say, like Elaine exercise there, that I'm looking at another person is, oh yeah, I will love my neighbor, right? But we should also love ourselves. And then the biggest problem, I think, in the universe is that people have self-hate. They hate themselves. They are, oh, I'm ugly, I'm so and so, I should be like this, or whatever. All this conditioning. And if you see, when you don't have something, you can't give it away, right? If you don't have love, you can't give the love away and share it. You can't love your neighbor as they need it, right, or that they deserve, because your intake of that self-appreciation is like this. And then you open up the channels, then you can actually do more of everything. So it's a tricky thing with words and actual energy. This is the key here to actually understand that the energy it's two different things. You have a number of energy. We have energy in us. Some people have very little energy. They are very, very small compared. Some people have lots of energy, and some people have lots of negative energy. Some people have lots of positive energy that they generate. So that's the individuality inside of this dimension. Right? I hope that I'm not ranting about this.
No. You said a lot of things, and one of the things was, let's start with the thing about time. That a little time to somebody else could be a lot of time. That's all perception, or some of what this is like a summing up of a lot of things, right? Love, self-love or self-hate. It's still just on the continuum of love, so it's still love. I don't think
But if you are in self-hate state, then you harm other people because your energy is toxic to them. And then they will shy away, or they take it on and become like them, right? Because we all want to hang out in a group. We want to hang out here in the beautiful space with all you gurus, and then I maybe become a guru too, right? So that's what people want to belong. And that's, in the tree of life here, that's at the root here, right? But we all have to travel this journey up the stem so we can come from here, from the roots. I don't know if you can see that. It's like from the roots up top. And when you have traveled that, then you finish the journey, and then you don't need to come back into the physical reality unless you want to.
It's interesting you've got that, Margarita, because it's a little bit like some people start off in the roots, and then they grow and they grow, and they turn into either a flower or a fruit, but the fruit is bad.
Yes.
And the flower doesn't bloom, and it's because that person isn't all that they could be. They're either lied to themselves, or they believe in like something very bad. The thing with Elaine, I thought was also like very, very fundamental. It's the fact that the issue. To take what Elaine said, part of what Elaine said, and extrapolate it a little bit, is that the issue that we have with the world at the moment is that we live in a you and me world. No, we live in a you or me world. That's the world that we live in. It's either you or me. We go into business. It's either you or me. But only when we live in a world of you and me will we get a better understanding of how we should live, and the world will be a better place. It's a lot of the time, and the stuff that we see on the news is because it's either you or me. It's not you and me. As soon as we put or instead of and, that creates a conflict. And it creates a conflict between two people. It creates a conflict in our mind. And again, when you said about having love, if I came over to you and said, Margarita, have you got a hammer? And you said, I don't have one. You can't give me a hammer. If I said to you, have you got...
I can give you a rock.
But if I said, have you got a quart of milk? You'd say, I haven't got any milk. If you haven't got it, you can't give it to me. And if we haven't got it, we can't give it to anybody. Once we've got it, we can share it. Or we can give it to somebody who really needs it more than we do. And it tends to link to, can we help anybody if we can't help ourselves?
So do you really think that we don't have it? Or do we have it and we just haven't found it or acknowledged it, listened for it, listened to, I mean, or do we, I mean, it's all over here. How can we not have it?
Well, the channels are closed, right?
Yeah. We
all have it, right? We're all one with the universe.
But how many times has somebody said to you, do you know, you've been struggling to do this, but the answer is right under your nose. It's in front of you.
Right.
You haven't seen it, and it's there. It's in plain sight. Or we just don't know that we've got it. Or we fear it, and we don't recognize it. We don't want to admit that we've got it because it's a weakness.
Right.
Sometimes people see compassion as a weakness in somebody, but they see it like that right up until the moment they need it from you.
But it's all about awareness. Yeah. It's all about awareness. That's what an awakening is. I think we all have it. It's just a matter of, do we realize that we have it or not?
Well, that's the duality that we were originally talking about, isn't it? Because it's like when somebody looks at you and they see one thing, but they don't see the whole picture.
Right.
And it's like we are sometimes thinking, you don't really know who I am, do you? You think, I know that you think you know who I am, but you really don't know what I am, who I am, and who I am capable of being. It's the judgment of that, and that's duality. We see one thing, and we think that, but we tend not to spend time in this world where time is of the issue. And
so I just changed my mind about something. You said compassion. And I'm thinking, okay, if it's compassion, it comes from the heart. Compassion that comes from the head is not compassion, right? It's ego. It's too much compassion is not compassion. It's self. But now I'm saying, after listening to what you just said, that compassion it's just a duality of compassion, still compassion.
Yeah, but that might be what you heard. That doesn't necessarily mean it's what I said. I know that you believe you understand what you think.
Well, no, I understand that for me. No,
I'm just not sure whether you realise that what you heard is not what I meant.
Maybe not.
That could be the whole different context that you're coming for. No, the thing with compassion, I think, is that we all have it, but yet we suppress it sometimes because indirectly we can see it as being a chink in our armour, a sign of weakness. If we show compassion to somebody, we think everybody's going to come to us for compassion. No, they're not, because not everybody needs it. But even in a business, in a work environment, if a boss shows compassion to somebody, it can be seen as a sign of weakness by people. But they only see it as a sign of weakness until they need it themselves. And then, boy, is it a strength. It's a strange, odd thing.
But what I heard from you, I said, this is how I changed. Doesn't mean that you meant whatever you meant. Who cares?
Exactly.
I heard what I heard from myself, which mattered. But the interesting thing is what you just said was I was thinking still in duality of compassion, still more black and white. It's either coming from the head or it's coming from the heart. I didn't think about how you were defining that until you just said. That's why listening is so key, because we hear different perspectives on all of these things.
The strange thing is, also, you don't need to like me for me to help you. I don't need to like you to help you.
That's
but
right.
That happens. There is no black and white. There are various shades, various colours, various hues of things. That is all that somebody needs. They don't need the blacks, they don't need the white, they need the grey. And that sends them off in their own direction.
Yep. Well, this has been cool. And it's 12 o'clock, so I want to thank Dave. I want to thank Elaine. I want to thank Gail. And I want to thank Margarita for journeying into the unknown. And maybe it's not the unknown. I don't know. Maybe we really do know it. It's just we're remembering or something. I don't know. But Elaine, a final word?
Without thinking, all I'm led to say is the word peace. Resolves all duality. The curiosity to experience peace.
Mm-hmm. Yep, perfect. And duality is peaceful when you understand, just like life, when we listen and we understand, we find peace. Gail, summing up?
Yeah, what just came to me now is that duality is an illusion.
Yep, sure is. So are all those shades of gray. Margarita?
Well, come and join us here at SkyWire. We are the place to be outside duality. We are connecting to the consciousness. And that's all I will say.
These are all really profound. and Dave?
Everybody in the world is exactly the same as each other in their own unique way. We're all dots on a planet, and only when those dots are joined will we see the big picture and the plan of God. So I recommend everybody to come to 50 Shades of SkyWire.
I've said a lot today, but the last thing I'm going to say is that this show has really been impactful. So thank you all extraordinarily much. Bye.